We are drafting Rodriguez. I'm calling it into existence. Boy, was I wrong. So after the initial shock of not taking guys like Dylan Thieneman, Makai Lemon, who fell, and of course, who I thought, kind of making a bold prediction of Jacob Rodriguez, which I'm not entirely mad about. Obviously he's still there available in the second round, so we'll see what happens moving forward. But the Dylan Thieneman one was a little bit of a head scratcher for me because I felt like that was a need that we had. But I'm also not entirely mad about this pick either, right? Now, in the initial event of it, I wasn't the most thrilled because I kind of thought, after seeing Minnesota take Caleb Banks, which was a huge surprise to me, Blake Miller being a tackle taken, which was a huge surprise to me, to teams that I thought could possibly take Dylan Thieneman. I just knew like, oh man, he's falling right into our lap. But there was also kind of an apprehension of like, he is falling kind of far. Dallas moved up, from 12 to 11. They didn't take him there, which I thought maybe, he was mocked there a few times. I kind of thought that maybe he could go there, but Caleb Downs falling kind of made it, a no-brainer for them to take him. So it seemed like the board kind of set up perfectly. Now, I will say that after thinking over this pick, having a night to really kind of consider, the reason behind why they done it, it makes a lot of sense. It does. And from the player, so we'll start there from the player himself. Monroe Freeling is a freak of nature athlete, 6'7", super long wingspan, like can run. I think he had a pretty good 40 time, like sub 5, something like that, 40 time. And, it's a good player, right? Now, I will say that in similar fashion, a little bit different circumstances, actually completely different circumstances, if I'm being honest, only the 1 year starting, like 18 starts, in his career, right? So that does kind of concern you as far as like him being able to come in and be a, plug and play guy. But I do think this is more of a potential depth piece and also kind of some chess because of some things that you got coming up. Number one, Icky's injury, right? So this to me says that Icky's injury is far more significant than maybe even the team is leading on talking about publicly. Two is your belief in Rasheed Walker. I think that Rasheed Walker is likely going to be the starter this year, unless he obviously Monroe. This is kind of up in the air. He could beat him out in camp. Showing a lot of potential when they get to OTAs, when they get to minicamp, and then eventually training camp. Maybe he ends up winning this job. You never know. You did get Rasheed Walker on a 1-year deal. I also will say, considering the need for left tackle, and we saw what happened in the draft tonight and how the run of left tackles were going. It is kind of interesting to me that he was available to us and for the number that he was available to us at. So that is fascinating as well. But I think it does kind of fill a need, and then future situation. You got Timo on likely his last year in Carolina this year, so there's the potential for him to move to right tackle. Or if Icky does come back healthy, you still got both guys that are kind of interchangeable. And considering the amount of offensive line iterations that we had last year and have had over the past couple of years, this is actually the right pick. That's what makes me proud about it. That's really what makes me kind of tip my hat to Dan and Dave and company, is that they didn't make the pick that you kind of would have thought like, okay, the Rodriguez pick, right? Like I said, it's a bold pick, but off-ball linebacker, when you got someone in Trevin Wallace who has played well when available, right? And you just went out and signed Devin Lloyd. Definitely not an edge considering that you just spent $100 million on Jalen Phillips, right? Or 200, whatever the number was, right? On Jalen Phillips. And then, you turn around and you look at your, trenches up front, and you want to protect your greatest investment and likely the person who's going to sign the next biggest contract for your franchise, and that's Bryce Young. Oddly enough, Bryce Young did indeed text Dan Morgan that he was pretty excited about this pick. So he was asked, Dan Morgan was asked by the media if they had reached out to Bryce. He's like, no, he reached out to me, so he was super excited about it. So I'm sure he is. When you get hit 62 times your rookie year, and last year there were some moments where the protection broke down. Of course, you do want to see someone that they could bring in that, could shore that up. So it's the smart pick. It's the right pick. Was it the sexy pick? Was it the one that would make us the most excited? No, absolutely not. And I'll be the first to tell you that when when it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, But in my heart of hearts, I do agree with the pick, and it makes the most sense, right? And it's what smart franchises do, The one thing I can say about making picks that are, the splash picks or whatever like that, You don't want to be in that position. We've been in that position a couple of different times. We were in that position last year when we made the pick of Tedderoy McMillan. We were in that position when we made the pick and moved up in the end of the first round for Xavier Leggett. Years ago, we were in that position when we took a quarterback randomly in the third round. Well, not randomly because we kind of needed one, but when we got Matt Corral. And these are things that we done that kind of made people excited. Now, obviously, the T-Mac pick worked out. The XL pick is still yet to be determined. And then, of course, the Matt Corral was an absolute bomb. But that said, it is the right pick. It's the pick that makes the most sense. And the upside is there. I mean, like I said, the kid's a physical freak. Um, it'll be interesting to see if I do, Dave Canales made a, interesting comment about him potentially playing tight end, which is probably not going to happen, but him actually seeing the field. And I think that part of that is because some of the concern for people would be like, well, man, I mean, if Walker does play well, you got Timo out there that's still playing well. Where does your first round pick at 19 actually fit and become a starter or any kind of like meaningful player at the during the season at all? For me, that's never really been a problem. I'm one of the guys that's like okay with a quarterback sitting, right? Kirk Cousins just went to the Raiders. They drafted Fernando Mendoza. He doesn't have to start right away. I'm okay with a guy sitting as long as he's developing and learning. I wouldn't be upset with Monroe Freeling not starting right away, especially if you're, when you consider the number of starts from college, he needs reps, right? This will give him a chance to kind of, get into his NFL flow, and everything like that, and then be ready when his number is called. Because more than likely, if we're going off of history of what's happened with the Carolina Panthers over the last few seasons, his number will be called, right? So he'll get his opportunity, and it'll be exciting to see, what he does. I mean, he comes from, a championship pedigree. Part of the reason that he, likely didn't have but 18 starts is because of who was playing in front of him, right? So it's Georgia, and these guys are a factory, especially in the trenches, sending guys to the NFL and also skill positions as well. But again, I'm excited with the pick. Well, actually, let me not say that. I'm not excited with the pick. It is the right pick. I'm happy that they are doing things that smart franchises do. But was it the most exciting pick? No. I'll just be honest about that. I did see someone had asked me like, "Hey, were you mad about it?" No, absolutely not. Not mad about the pick. Again, it was the right one. But let me know what you think. Hit the like, run that hype. Let me know what you think about the pick, and what we'll do in the second round. Maybe live streaming tonight, kind of, looking at what the potential is for the second round, whether it's safety, whether it's our guy, seeing if we draft J Rod tonight. But either way, hey man, I'm excited about the continuation of this draft. Until I see y'all then, keep pounding.